Friends, welcome to the first in a series of conversations with other people in sports media around the world of the NHL. Today, joined by Hunter Hodies of Lockdown Pens, longtime friend, someone I've known forever. We're here to discuss the Penguins because the Rangers play the Penguins 3 times in a 6-day span. And I thought no one better to kind of give a little bit of a flavoring, a better understanding of the Penguins and their season so far than Hunter. How you doing, bud?
Doing pretty good today. The site turned into World War III on Sunday, and I can't wait to see what other madness we're going to see later on this week when I think both fan bases will eat each other again. So I can't wait for that.
I mean, that's what happens when you're at this time of the year where every game is so important. A lot of the schedules are oriented around division and conference only opponents this time of year, specifically for this reason. I don't know if I'm a fan of playing a team 3 times in a week. I feel like that might be a little bit of overkill. That's more of a baseball style thing than what we've typically seen in hockey. But yeah, by the end of the game on Saturday, these two teams and fan bases are going to be absolutely sick of each other.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think this is honestly, we're at mid-March. I think it's a little early to be seeing the team play 3 times in less than a week. We still got another month left of the regular season. You want to do a home and home, that's cool. But the way the schedule worked out this year, a little too much for my taste, especially after what we just witnessed for 2 weeks last year with this series. These two teams, when they play, it's just exhausting, I think, at this point. I think I've had my fair share of, people being morons and, again, just eating each other. I am more than ready for next weekend to be over with. So these two teams, they probably will not play again until next season based on where the standings are. But it's still going to make for two more, I would say, pretty entertaining games with how the standings are right now.
So when these two teams have played with reasonable goaltending, I think that's the caveat you've got to add here, because when the Rangers played the Penguins in the playoffs last year, you're dealing with second and third goalies on the depth chart. You're dealing with, and because remember, last year in the regular season, the Rangers and Penguins played 3 times. The first game, the Penguins won 1-0. They scored a power play goal. That was the only offense in the entire game. The second time they played was after the deadline. The Rangers got out in front early. They scored like 3 goals in the first 10 minutes. That game was kind of a wash. And then the Rangers won the last time, but that game didn't matter because both teams were kind of locked into their playoff spots at that point. So when the Penguins have had the goaltending, they've been fine. That's been few and far between for them this year, though.
Yes, it's been, when people ask me, like, oh, why did they haven't won a series since 2018 and all that? Well, it's like, look what the goaltending has been. They've gotten really crappy goaltending against the Islanders in 2019, but I can also chalk that up to that team not being very good. In the bubble against the Canadiens, Matt Murray wasn't good. Next year, Tristan Jarry vomited all over himself. Last year, you had to play a whole series with Louis freaking Domingue as your starter. I think I could probably argue that if Casey DeSmith is in net for that whole series, I would say they probably win. I think
it's a fair argument. It's a fair argument. The Rangers got a lot of things to go their way. Crosby misses a pair of games. You have You have Yari starting game 7 injured, definitely injured, but they wanted him in there over Domingue. The Rangers had a lot go their way in that series because when you go back and look at the box scores, you look at the chances for and against, the Penguins controlled pretty much every single one of those games other than the first 10 minutes of game 1 where the Rangers got out in front really fast. And that was it. That was really it. Other than that, the Rangers were hanging on for dear life, and Shesterkin was really bad in the middle too in games 3 and 4, and then slowly started to put it together as the team around him got better. But right now, so let's say I've been in a coma since early September, and you had to explain to me how the Penguin season has gone so far. What do I need to know about the Penguins?
Okay. So this team, I've been saying it on my show, very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They started out the season great. They had a bad dip. Then it's funny, I moved up here late November, early December. They blitzed the league for those next 4 or 5 weeks. Then it goes down again. And now lately, Nick, they've won 7 in the last 9 games, all while everyone wants Ron Hextall and Brian Burke to be fired because of some decisions that have been made, goaltending, other things. This is a very maddening team. Since the All-Star break, the team has also had very good underlying numbers, top 10 in expected goals, shot attempts, scoring chances, expected goals against. All the while, everyone has been crapping on some of their recent acquisitions in Kyle Granlund, Dmitry Kulikov. The goaltending hasn't been good. This is a very weird team. I think that's probably the best way I can describe this team to you. Wildly inconsistent, but the thing is, the basis of a good team is there. They should be better than where they are right now. Sidney Crosby's on pace for 100 points and he's 35 years old. Evgeny Malkin is on pace for over 80 points. He is 36 years old. Chris Letang, he is on pace for another very good season. Rickard Rakell, Jason Zucker is almost at 25 goals. He's setting himself up to have a nice payday, whether it's here or somewhere else. Top six has gotten it done. Goaltending, not really that much. Tristan Jarry has been very inconsistent this season. Casey DeSmith, same thing. It's definitely been a choice that they've run this tandem back 3 years in a row and expecting different results. They'll be trying to do that if they make the playoffs here. But the bottom six hasn't been good. It's just been really funny to see how this team has been so inconsistent. Yet when the games have mattered most here, they've won 7 out of 9 and their numbers are looking not that bad. They have obvious flaws, playing with the lead in the third period, goaltending, bottom six scoring, all that. That said, the basis for a good team is here, especially when you have the top six playing at the level that they have right now. The Stars are getting it done. I will never be here for, they brought the band back together and that's why they're at this spot. No, like the band is still playing the hits. Guns N' Roses is still playing Appetite for Destruction really well here. That's what's going on with the Penguins and their top players. It's those bottom players that have sunk them throughout the year. That's why they had to waive Brock McGinn, Kasperi Kapanen. They had to finally send Jeff Carter's corpse to the fourth line because he wasn't getting the job done in the third line. Now, could they have spent better assets for the third line? Yes. And that's where I harp on the general manager because I don't think he's done a good job. But they're getting the job done right now. And that's really all you can hope for is that they continue to build off these performances with only about 4 to 5 weeks left in the season.
So it's very interesting because I was trying to think of how I would explain the Penguins, and you bring up Guns N' Roses. The Penguins are like Guns N' Roses in 2023, where you still got the main guys, where you still got Slash and Axel, but you got session players around them now. That's kind of what like Jeff Carter is. That's what Rickard Rakell is. Those are the session players in the band where you still got the main pieces. Everybody's there for those guys. As long as the session players don't kill you, you can still have a fun time at the concert. But it's not the same. There's not a Hagelin, Bonino, Phil Kessel line on this team. Okay, one thing I wanted to ask you. What the hell happened to Kasperi Kapanen? Because when he first got there, I was like, this is an energy forechecking, annoying pest type of guy who the Penguins sorely need. What the hell happened to him in the 2.5, 3 years he was there?
Yeah, he had a very strong season after he was first acquired back. That's the second time he was here. 30 points in 40 games during the shortened season. But, it was kind of a little bit of a mirage because he wrote a very high shooting percentage. His underlying weren't that good. They thought sticking him with Evgeny Malkin would really help him. At least for that season, it kind of did. But after that, it was obvious that was not working. And then he just wasn't really consistent. Last season wasn't good. This season, part of it was him, but I also think another part of it is deployment. I like that the Blues are actually giving him top 6 minutes with actual players like Pavel Buchnevich and not someone like Jeff Carter, who was almost 40, and Brock McGinn, who wrote a very unsustainably high shooting percentage to start the year and then tailed off. I think both of those factors really played into him becoming a non-factor. I will also go at the general manager for re-signing him to a deal that, I'm sorry, he did not deserve. He got a pay raise for playing bad last season. 2 years, $3.2 million per. Made no sense. If they had not brought him back, you could have gone out there and signed a Nino Niederreiter or someone like that in free agency. It's just whenever they've gotten cap space, they've almost just vomited all over themselves. That's a different discussion for another day, though. But it's just he was way too inconsistent. He has parts of his game that I like. He has blazing fast speed. He has a nice shot when it's used correctly, but I don't think he was put in a good enough position to succeed. And I also don't think the fit was good enough for him here because, countless times Mike Sullivan would always say, like, I failed him as a coach. I don't think I've done enough. And I think he definitely was taking that to heart. And I just don't think he's a strong fit with the system that the Penguins were trying to run with him.
Speaking of guys who I don't understand, Jeff Carter, when he first got there, was pretty good. Like, he had, like, father time, like, snatch his skills up in, like, 10 minutes. Because, like, when he first got there, he was really good. And now he's objectively their worst forward.
It's weird, man. I mean, but that also just goes to how anytime this was going to happen, and it also shows why it was so stupid of Ron Hextall to sign him to that extension just based on half of a season last year. Because you're right. He got there during the COVID-shortened season, played his tail off when he scored like 8 goals in his first 10 games with the team.
Yeah.
Goes in, plays very well against the Islanders in the playoffs, a series that the Penguins should have won. I will die on that hill if Tristan Jarry is at least average in that series. And then first half of last season, plays better. As soon as he signs that contract, total nosedive. You look like you hadn't even watched him play any before. Just a total different player. And it's continued into this season to the point where, Penguins fans are, I'm not joking here, people are wishing for him to have a Marian Hossa type situation here where he gets allergic to his hockey equipment. It's not going to happen, but he still has another year left on his contract. Everything with his game has gone to crap. His skating is just not there anymore. His shooting is bad. He can't pass. He can't defend. Mike Sullivan, for some reason, still thinks he's a prime Patrice Bergeron with the way he deploys him in 5-on-6 situations. I do not get it. It is a total failure on not just the front office, but the head coach as well, by thinking that he is still this godsend of a two-way player. Prime Anze Kopitar, if you want, that he's sending him out there in high leverage situations. It's very weird. Heck, he still starts overtime because they think he can still do faceoffs, and he's basically lost every faceoff since they've been doing that. He's not the reason why they've been better in overtime. They finally put him on the fourth line, and funny enough, wow, his numbers have gotten better because he's getting lesser minutes. His expected goals rate over the last 3 to 4 games is around 59-60%. Keep doing that. You have to, if you were going to ice him, whether it's on the fourth line wing or fourth line center, that is where you want to put him. Play him 8 to 10 minutes a night. You cannot give this player third line minutes anymore. He sinks everyone who is on there. And I'm glad that they finally noticed that. It took 60 plus games to do it, but it has been a total nosedive. And yeah, the Penguins might be screwed with that contract going into next season. I'll say that.
Impressions of Granlund so far?
He's been okay. He scored the goal against the Flyers. Really nice release. I don't really think he impressed me too much in the first couple of games. It's funny, when I first saw the deal, I was confused because you're adding another 30-plus-year-old player that makes $5 million per for the next couple of seasons. Didn't really understand it that much. He's also kind of the antithesis of what this team needs. They need more finishers in the bottom six, not more passers. His bread and butter is his passing, his playmaking ability. Also, for some reason, Mike Sullivan thinks he can deploy him in a Patrice Bergeron-like manner on the penalty kill. He's never really done that in his career. Also a very strange decision. Since he moved to center, though, I have liked what I have seen a little bit more. Bumping Rickard Rakell down, I think, has done wonders for him because whatever line Rakell touches, it turns to gold. The underlying numbers have been very good the last couple of games. Short sample size, yes. But I like him in the center spot right now than I did with wing. I want to see more offense from him down the stretch, especially goal scoring ability, because that has really dried up this year. He was a 64-point player last season. But as I said on my show, he played with Matt Duchene, Philip Forsberg, and Roman Josi.
That'll help.
Yeah, that's going to help quite a bit. He had a lot of assists in there, giving those guys some goals. But he's been playing better with O'Connor lately and Rakell. Want to see how that line goes. I'm not going to sit here and say, it's going to be a total failure. I like him as a player. I just don't really think it was the right move that this GM needed to make. Still want to see if I can eat some crow on it.
All right. So last thing before we start talking more Rangers Penguins directly, talk to me about what the hell is going. Is Brian Dumoulin just cooked at this point? Because it's just not there anymore. Like watching him yesterday, it's just not there anymore.
His legs haven't been there since last season, to be honest, Nick. I was of the opinion that they should move him during this past offseason. I don't know how many teams would have been interested. You probably could have found some sucker to take him on because of the pedigree, Stanley Cup championships, good in his own zone, all that stuff. Heck, they got to take over Brock again. So, most players I think can be traded. But his legs haven't been there all year. His offensive game has never really been there, even when he's in his prime, but it's definitely not been there this season. But defensively, he's not winning the foot races. He's not getting his sticks into the shooting lanes. He's getting cooked on odd man rushes. He's making poor decisions with the puck. That's what happens sometimes. You know it. I know it. When players turn over 30, this is what happens. The aging curve it's a fickle beast, and he is not close to the same player that he once was. It's why Mike Sullivan's taking him off the top pairing finally. He was sinking Chris Letang's numbers a little bit. He's playing with Jeff Petrie right now. I don't really like that pairing just because Petrie has been okay this season, but you're not going to scratch him. That's just not what they're going to do. I would probably have him out of the lineup at some point, maybe to give him some rest, see how that goes, but they're not going to do that because they have too much respect for him. Thankfully, though, his contract is actually off the books this season. I don't expect him to be back, nor should he. He can go to another team and, on a multi-year deal, maybe take a little bit of a pay cut, something like that. But yes, he is cooked at this point. It's not been pretty, and it's been really sad to see it because when he came up, I believe his first taste of the games was 2014-15. He was one of the regulars in that Penguin series against the Rangers when Chris Letang was out due to that really dirty hit from Shane Doan. He looked really good. And then that next season was his first full year. Played some of the best hockey, played some outstanding hockey, formed one of the best top pairings in the league with Letang. But yeah, it's been a slippery slope these last couple of years. I think honestly, ever since that devastating ankle injury that he had, it really messed with his skating, and he's just not the same.
Okay. Switching up gears now, you saw the Rangers up close yesterday for the first time in quite a while. What are your impressions from the outside looking in based on how they've played?
When I was watching that game, it reminded me, and we were texting about this, it reminded me a lot of the playoff series. Penguins, they controlled the play. I think they're the better coach team when you look at how Mike Sullivan coaches versus Gerard Gallant. I said this on my show last year that Sullivan was taking Gallant's lunch in the first 4 games of that series. Honestly, he was taking his lunch that whole series. It's just he didn't have a goalie to make a save. But I do like the Rangers forwards. I'm not really a big fan of the Patrick Kane acquisition. I saw Shayna's tweet. Things are looking a little bit bleak there, even though he has had a couple of goals. The Rangers are such a weird team to evaluate, though, Nick. You look at the roster, and I'm like, this is a damn good roster. Stanley Cup contender / winning roster. But then you watch them play, and I'm like, is this really it? Like, this is what we're watching here? It was very weird to me. I think they maybe need to play around with the lines a little bit. Power play maybe needs to be fixed a little bit because it's not as hot as it was last season. I feel like they're kind of running the same recipe. At least that's how I see it, where if the goalie is not God, they're not going to win a series. And Shesterkin, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, he has not been nearly as good this year as he was last year. I mean, and it's hard to replicate 935, 940 goaltending. If people think that's the norm, no. Goaltending is very volatile. But, I do think this team is good. I think they have the difference maker in net. They can beat any team in a 7-game series. It's all a matter of, will Igor from last year show up, and can some of those top players also show up in those series? Because, until Game 7, I would say Game 6, Game 7 last year, Zibanejad didn't do anything against the Penguins. Panarin was a ghost. They have more talent around them this year, but it's all a matter of, in those short sample sizes, can some of those guys really rise up and ride a 30-40% shooting percentage? But, I don't think nothing that I saw in that game truly totally impressed me. I think in the third period they played well because the Penguins look like crap and they've played really bad in third periods. But this is still a team. I mean, I do think if the Penguins were healthy and they get quality goaltending, they can definitely make a series with New York and they could potentially beat them. But, it's hard for me to see them this year. I know they beat Carolina last year. With how the Hurricanes are this year, I think it'd be maybe a little harder for me to see them beat them this season. New Jersey, though, I think you guys could definitely beat. I think they're a little too inexperienced with playoff stuff. I do buy into that little mentality. But overall, when I was watching that game, I got very 2022 playoff vibes with the Penguins and the Rangers. Still think they're obviously one of the better teams in the league.
Not a lot of space out there. Very difficult to find offense. Not very easy to get to the net. I mean, the one goal the Rangers had before they were really chasing it was just pure effort. The one that Gaudreau goes to the net and bangs it in. Other than that, there's just not a lot of space. And the Penguins, when they've had the goaltending, have been really good at slowing the Rangers down and really taking away that cross-team pass they like to do. And the Penguins' forecheck was really good yesterday. I mean, granted, the Rangers suck at breaking out of their own zone. Other than Fox, nobody is particularly good at it. But against a team like Pittsburgh, who I was pretty impressed with how well they forechecked yesterday, considering they're not that fast of a team, they really gave the Rangers a hard time.
Yeah, I think that Mike Sullivan has definitely made some tweaks to his system to play against the Rangers. I think it was Jesse Marshall from The Athletic that
Yeah.
highlighted it going into the series. He went into the video and look, they're taking away that massive cross-seam pass, and that's really disrupting their flow of offense. We saw it in this one too. Chris Letang also spoke after the game how they were noticing the Rangers were sending 3-4 checkers pretty deep, and they said Mike Sullivan had to change some things up on the fly on the bench, and you can see I think they that the system that they were running was giving Gallant and company some fits. So they have done well to adjust to the Rangers. They, the 3 power plays in the first period will definitely skew the shots a little bit just because the Rangers took some pretty foolish penalties. But again, I texted you about that. Yeah. That all evened out at the end of the game, as I said it would, because that's how the NHL is. But yeah, I was really impressed with how they played, especially with the second half of the back-to-back. They're usually pretty gassed on in those games. The record is only about 200 in terms of winning those games. First 2 periods, they look like a completely different team. Rangers pushed back in the third, which, I kind of expected a little bit because the Penguins have been really bad in third periods. But, overall, I really like the performance. And I think they've definitely found something in terms of learning how to stop the Rangers forecheck, learning how to beat their defense. I think a couple of their defensemen were caught flat-footed a lot of times. They forced a lot of turnovers in the defensive zone. That was also big for me. It just seems like, I know they lost the series last season to this team, but it seems like the Penguins, it's funny. They know how to play certain teams well.
Very well.
Unlike the Islanders, who for some reason they've had their number going back 40 plus years at this point. I'm not surprised by it anymore. But a team like the Rangers, a team like the Lightning, they just know how to play them. And I think that's been the case for a lot of the Mike Sullivan era.
Yeah, no, that's one advantage that the Penguins have over a lot of teams is they have one of like the 6 good coaches in the entire league. We talk about this all the time that there's 32 teams, there's about 7 good coaches, and the other 25 are all whatever order they happen to fall in on that given day. Because a lot of these guys are just kind of throwing shit at the wall. There's not a lot of tacticians in the NHL the way there are in other sports. And I remember you brought it up that the Penguins adjusted how high the line they were playing in the neutral zone, I think was, and that was really forcing the Rangers to slow down and change their breakouts. And that's something the Rangers have struggled with all year is when they recover the puck in their own zone, the forwards are already flying the zone to break out to try and get to offense faster. And the other team is just going to step in front of that long pass and they're going to come back towards you. And because the forwards are so deep, you're not going to be able to get back. And because the Ranger defensemen, other than Adam Fox, have a really bad habit of getting caught flat-footed, that's where the Rangers have had a really hard time. I mean, in the last month, the Rangers are, I think, conceding more goals. Where is it? Goals for, goals against. Yeah, they're goals for, 2.42, goals against, 2.82 over the last 15 games. And it's entirely on the defense because the goaltending is the best it's been in a while. I mean, Halak was really good yesterday for a backup. Halak makes that save at the end of regulation and drags them to overtime. The Rangers probably should have lost that game, in all honesty, but they were able to squeeze a point out of it.
Yeah, that was a great save. I think it was Nylander that caught Keandre Miller flat-footed, was trying to get his first one. They almost stole the extra point. They would have been 5 points back and gotten that massive regulation win. He was good. Yaroslav Halak has broken my heart numerous times over my life. I'll never forget being in 7th grade and watching what he did when he was with Montreal, but long time ago. But the Penguins, their defending yesterday was probably some of the best I've seen it this whole season. That's been a big point of emphasis for me and a lot of other people in the Penguins community is just that the defending has been so piss poor at times, especially in front of the net. Tristan Jarry had no chance on that first shot. Even the second one, you probably want to see him make a save there, but that's also just a beautiful pass by I'm forgetting who it was in the corner, Nick, to get Kreider that goal. Might have been Schneider.
I think it was. I think
it went between Dumoulin's skate. Kreider's, I said that on my show. Kreider's going to bury that 9 out of 10 times, but, he also shouldn't be come seaming down. Outside of that, though, they defended very well. They were able to stop the Rangers' forecheck. Everyone on that defensive core was able to step up. Even Dmitry Kulikov and Jan Ruda, who I have not been too big on this season. I would like to see P.O. Joseph in the lineup. I think he's probably going to be in the lineup on Tuesday, considering Kulikov is day-to-day right now. But, their defending has gotten better since the All-Star break, and it showed, I think, in this one. Because, before that, it had been a major point of emphasis from a lot of people in this community, just because their defensive core, it's fine. It's nothing to truly write home about, but I think there's still areas where they could improve upon it.
Okay, last thing before we get out of here. They're looking at that first wild card or third in division, reasonable expectations for Penguins going into the postseason this year.
Yeah, so I mean, right now, I mean, it's funny. I said this a couple weeks ago after the Oilers lost because I was basically just done at that point. I was probably the first time I've ever said in this era that they're going to miss the playoffs. Shame on me because they've gone 7-1 in their last 9. So I'm going to take the L on that, at least for right now. They are in a very good position. They have the math. The funny thing is they're 2 points up on the Islanders and they still have 2 games in hand and they lost all 4 games to them this season. That just goes to show how they could have buried those suckers if they won those 3 games. But I think you're probably looking at the first wild card right now, a matchup against Carolina, a matchup against New Jersey. I would personally rather play the Devils. The Hurricanes, those games have been 50-50s, yes, but I feel like with the Hurricanes are good to win at least usually around in the playoffs. They haven't gone on that true deep run just yet. They made a conference final, but they got swept by Boston. But outside of that, it's been a lot of first, second round exits. I feel like with how they are built, they just give the Penguins a decent amount of fits. I think the games will be close, but I think it would be closer to winning a series against the Devils. It may sound weird to say. I understand Jack Hughes is awesome. Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Igor Sharangovich, Dougie Hamilton, the goaltending, on and on. But I do think the Penguins would stand a better chance winning that series against a team that is really inexperienced when it comes to playoff hockey. Again, I do think that is a little bit of a factor come playoff time. Now, if they play Boston, I mean, good luck. I don't think they'll do anything with them. But expectations right now, at least now, I expect them at least now to get in, assuming they don't get 850 goaltending the rest of the way, God forbid, or they don't collapse over these next 16 games. The schedule is very favorable to them. At least half of the remaining games are against non-playoff teams. Still got the Flyers. They got the Blue Jackets. They play the Canadians tomorrow. They play the Predators still. Those are just 4. I believe they play the Red Wings 2 more times. They're kind of in the race, but they've slacked off lately. Got to win the games you're supposed to. Make sure you're going into the playoffs as good as you can. Now, can they win a round? Sure. Maybe.
You would say matchup dependent to win a round?
Yes. I think if they get the Devils, I do think I think they could win that one over a team like the Hurricanes or the Bruins. Outside of that, though, I don't know. I don't think they can go that much deeper, at least right now. Maybe winning a round saves the GM's job. If they don't, though, I have to think that the GM and Brian Burke are gone after the season. I don't think Fenway Sports Group is going to stand for another first-round exit with how they've run the team. But, I also don't really know what their expectations are because they're really never around the team right now. I think they're all dealing with Liverpool and the Red Sox. But that's the thing, Nick. Yeah, I think it's matchup dependent. Can some players get hot in a 7-game series? Can they finally get the goaltending in a 7-game series? That's obviously going to be the big X factor. That's really what I'm looking for here down the stretch. If you're asking me right now, I do think that they will get in unless, again, they have like a monumental collapse these last 16 games because the wild card race is definitely, you're seeing a lot of separation this last week. It's not as chaotic as it used to be. That's how I see it, though.
Word. Thanks for coming by, Hunter. This is always fun to do. I'll be on your show later in the week. We'll have another Rangers-Penguins game to talk about. They play again Thursday and Saturday. The Rangers really up against it. They got Washington Tuesday, Pittsburgh Thursday, Saturday, Nashville on Sunday on a back-to-back. It's really, it's nut up or shut up time for a lot of these teams. We're really going to see what people are made of.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. In a funny world, the Penguins win on Tuesday and the Rangers lose. You're 4 points back going into Madison Square Garden. I would say it's unlikely because I don't think the Penguins would sweep this back-to-back. If they did, in some reality, you're tied for the 3rd place in the Metro spot, and maybe you're sliding into that 2-3 spot. Who knows? I think overall that's more unlikely than not, but you never know. These games are massive.
That's why we play the games. It's why we play the games, just in case.
We're in mid-March, baby. The Penguins played the Jam Siren at PPG Paints Arena on Sunday. When that's being played, it's almost playoff time. So this is probably my favorite time of the year. I'm pretty amped.
Oh, this is going to be fun, man. All right. that'll do it for the first of the Liberty Blue conversations. I want to thank Hunter for stopping by. Throw Hunter a follow on Twitter at Hunter Hodies. If you are so inclined, follow Locked On Penguins. Yes, this is a Rangers podcast, but we support our fellow content creators. Go leave him a nice review. We'll see you guys soon.